Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Ask robtrek, where I try to answer questions from the comment sections in my videos. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. And today I got a couple questions. Okay, the first one here is from Rick N, and he says, could you give me a use case to use SIS Auto? I have the stabilization set to SIS-1 on my EM1 Mark III for general handheld shooting. And I'm assuming that this setting is the most effective setting for this use case. All right, so basically what Rick is asking is, what is the best image stabilization system to use, SIS Auto or SIS-1? And then I'll talk about 2 and 3. So SIS-1 is your all-direction 5-axis image stabilization. So what are the 5 axes? Well, we have 2 of them on the vertical, right, up and down. We have 2 more left and right for the horizontal axis. And then we have a rotational axis as well. So those are the 5 axes on the the IBIS, the image stabilization. And the idea being is to minimize, shake when you're hand holding the camera. And just a small fun fact, did you know our bodies, the human body has a certain frequency that we tremor at? And then when we drink coffee, it's kind of exaggerated, right? But a lot of the image stabilization systems are actually tuned to that frequency in particular, but they're so good now, they do much more than just deal with handshake, right? Now, intuitively, it would make sense to have all 5 axes on at the same time, all the time, right? However, if you're doing panning, like you're taking a shot at a race car race, or you're chasing, like in my case, a lot of times I chase my dog around the yard and I do a lot of panning. The image stabilization is going to fight that panning motion as you're panning, because it doesn't know you're panning when all 5 axes are on. Or if maybe you're panning up, you're doing a birds in flight type thing, or you're at an air show and you need to pan up. Again, the image stabilization is going to fight that motion. So that's what SIS Auto does, is basically the camera has internal gyros that detect this panning motion of the camera. And it's going to disable, if you're panning left to right, it's going to disable the horizontal axis image stabilization so that it's not fighting against you as you're panning. And then the same thing for vertical, it's going to disable the vertical axis image stabilization. So again, not to fight your motion here as you're panning up. And that's what SIS Auto is, and that's the key difference between the two. And now it makes it easy to explain what SIS 2 and 3 is for. SIS 2 is vertical image stabilization. So basically that's for when you're panning left and right, it's only going to stabilize for the vertical motion and not fight you against the horizontal. And then SIS 3 is the opposite, right? It's going to disable the horizontal image stabilization, so it's not fighting you on the vertical. And that's what that's for. So they're very special use cases. 2 and 3 you probably won't use quite as much, but if you know you're going to be panning left to right a lot, it's maybe best practice to use SIS 2. And if you're going to be panning vertically, use SIS 3. And then the only other scenario is when you're on a tripod. Again, people have done tests where they said if you have it on SIS Auto or SIS-1, it doesn't make any difference. But it's best practice when you're on a tripod to turn off the image stabilization in the camera. Okay, we have another question here from Robert Russell, and he's asked, could you show us how to set the OM1 to take night sky photo with Starry Sky AF? Sure. All right, Starry Sky AF is a relatively new feature that they added in the EM1 Mark III. And now it's in the OM1 and also the OM5. And it's a great feature if you want to get into astrophotography, where it's sort of your basic Milky Way landscape type photography, or if you want to do deep sky astrophotography like I like to do time to time. And this is a great feature because it's extremely difficult to focus in low light, first of all, and then secondly, if you're going to manually focus on the stars, that's kind of a pain in the butt too sometimes, particularly with the focus by wire type lenses. You don't have sort of that precision to turn the ring, right? Let me show you how to do it on the OM1, because there's a couple of different settings, then I'll give you a couple of tips. All right, so let's just go into the super control panel, and we'll go ahead and select Starry Sky AF, which is right there, and click OK. In the menu system, if you go into the autofocus menu, you'll see Starry Sky AF settings, and we have two settings here. We have priority on speed or priority on accuracy. And of course, I always recommend priority on accuracy. And really, there's not that much difference. The priority on speed, it only takes like 2 seconds to focus on the stars, but it may not be 100% accurate, right? So I always use the accurate mode, and I found that it only takes about 5 to 10 seconds at most. All right, then the next item, we have a couple of settings, and I just recommend you leave it on AF on start stop. So basically what's going to happen is the camera's going to automatically try to focus and then automatically stop when it acquires focus. And then release priority, always leave this off, because if we turn this on, the camera may take a picture even though it doesn't have focus. So you always want to make sure this is off. All right, so I've set up some Christmas lights to kind of simulate stars. So I'm going to turn off the lights and demo how Starry Sky AF works. All right, so double check Starry Sky AF is selected. And I'm just going to push the AF on button and let go. And you can see it says Starry Sky AF is running. And now it's acquired focus. So let's just take a quick picture. And then we can check it. And yeah, perfect. All right, and that's pretty straightforward, and it's similar to SAF in that it works in all of the photo modes, including the intervalometer. So if you want to do time-lapse type astrophotography, you can use you can pre-focus with the Starry Sky AF, and it'll work just fine. But it does not work in movie mode, I think, for obvious reasons. Let me give you a couple of tips on using Starry Sky AF. Generally speaking, I like to try to find the brightest group of stars in the sky. You know, in my case, right now, that would be Pleiades, the Seven Sisters. But what I like to do is go into the autofocus target point and adjust it so it's about the size of the group of stars that are the brightest. I mean, if you can find 1 or 2 stars that are very bright, you can use a small point. But I found that middle works pretty good, finding a small group of stars that are very bright to focus on. And Starry Sky AF will lock on a lot faster that way. Another tip is that a lot of times when you're on a tracker and you're taking exposures for several hours, sometimes all night, right? It's best to try to stop at least every hour and rerun the Starry Sky AF. Because what happens is, as the night progresses, the temperatures change, and that the physics or the optics in your lens change with that temperature, because things expand and shrink with temperature changes. And you can be slightly out of focus if the temperature changes a lot, right? So what I like to do is every hour is stop the intervalometer and rerun the Starry Sky AF, and then start the intervalometer again. All right, and that's all I have for today. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, consider buying me a coffee or making a small donation in the links below, because they're greatly appreciated and help me make these videos for you. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.